Hello and good evening, everyone. I am Talita Pisu, doing my third year at the University of Goroka in the Eastern Highlands of Papua New Guinea. This evening, my colleagues and I are going to present an alarming issue that is affecting most of the students here in Papua New Guinea. And our topic is smoking and chewing betel nuts in Papua New Guinea schools. In this 20 minutes YouTube presentation, my four colleagues and I are going to be stating the specific points of discussion on this pressing issue, smoking and chewing betel nut in PNG schools. I will be stating the introductory part of this presentation following the four speakers. The four speakers are Rachel Wakarov. She will be describing the negative attitudes and impacts that smoking and chewing betel nut in Papua New Guinea schools have affected students' lives tremendously. Gideon Winty, he will be stressing on some strategic approaches on how to change and stop the habit of smoking and chewing betel nut in Papua New Guinea schools. While Frank Kopeap, he will be talking about the proper approaches of the development theory that will help mitigate the bad practice of smoking and chewing betel nut in Papua New Guinea schools. Finally, Jerry Paul, he will be summarizing all the given points and strategic approaches mentioned in our presentation, and also he will be highlighting some recommending points regarding this alarming topic. So, the field of smoking cigarette and chewing betel nut has taken a permanent grip in Papua New Guinea schools, almost to the extent that all the known efforts so far in abolishing and removing this deadly habit has been overly exhausted and takes a fall. The nation as a whole is struggling to control its growing addiction on young ones engaging in such corrupting habits at an earlier stage of their lives. Smoking and chewing betel nut in Papua New Guinea schools is a serious issue and bad habit due to its negative impacts it has on students at the different levels of learning in Papua New Guinea. Smoking and chewing betel nut is extremely harmful in Papua New Guinea schools due to its health risks and impacts on the students' learning to various diseases and negatively affecting the students' good ability.
I'll be talking about the negative attitude and its impact. Negative attitudes are disrespect for school rules. Students who engage in smoking or chewing betel nuts are often seen as disobedient, undermining school rules, and teachers' authority. The second one is rising against health advice. Students who took part in this habit of smoking and chewing betel nuts often resist public health education, leading ongoing unhealthy choices. The negative impact, I'll be talking about four negative impacts. The one is academic decline or poor performing in schools. Students involved in smoking and chewing betel nuts often lose focus on their studies, miss classes, and perform poorly in tests and assignment and score low marks due to additional behavior. The second one is school environment look unhealthy. Betel nut strain and cigarettes butts are everywhere in school campus, making school environment look unhealthy and unattractive learning environment. The third one is health problem rises. Smoking and betel nut chewing cause series of health risks in their bodies, such as mouth cancer, gum disease, and tooth decay. The fourth one is financial hardship. When students smoking and chewing betel nuts, they spend a lot of money. They go ahead and spend their lunch money or even the school fee money given by their parents on this substance, affecting their nutrition and education.
Okay, here are some strategies to change the bad behavior or reduce the bad behavior of smoking and chewing Betel-Nut. Some of the strategies to change bad behavior of smoking and chewing Betel-Nut issues in the schools of Papua New Guinea are: the first one is education development. Education development of teachers and staffs in the school can teach and encourage students about the risk and health consequences of smoking and chewing Betel-Nut in the school campus. Now the second one is school must have some policies to reduce the smoking and chewing Betel-Nut issues. School can establish rules and regulation or enforces policies to minimize smoking and chewing Betel-Nut in the schools of Papua New Guinea. Now the third strategies to reduce the bad behavior of smoking and chewing Betel-Nut is parents' involvement in reducing smoking and chewing Betel-Nut issues. Parents must raise awareness among their students and within the communities, and provide engaging activities that is of healthy habits in their homes, and also offer them a counseling for their addiction and peer pressures. Now the fourth one is the community leaders' involvement in reducing smoking and chewing Betel-Nut issues in the communities. Leaders can work or collaborate with local organizations and leaders also to assess in progress and effectiveness of reducing smoking and chewing Betel-Nut in the schools of Papua New Guinea. Now, the correct and appropriate discipline can be applied in all schools or institutions in the country by the national education system for any student discipline issues involving parents of concerned students.
Okay, I'll be talking about the approaches of development theory on smoking and Betel-Nut chewing in Papua New Guinea schools. With reference to the behavioral theories proposed by the two theorists, first one, B.F. Skinner's on operant conditioning theory, and the second one is Ivan Pavlov on conditioning, classical conditioning theory. Operant conditioning theory by B.F. Skinner suggests that behavior is primarily shaped by its consequences and is focuses on how actions are influenced by environmental events, especially through reinforcement and punishment. This theory explains how both positive and negative consequences can be used to either increase or decrease the likelihood of a behavior being repeated. By strategically using reinforcement and punishment, negative behaviors can be decreased while positive behaviors are encouraged. Classical conditioning theory by Ivan Pavlov explains how behaviors are learned through association between stimuli and responses. It's a fundamental concept in behaviorism, where learning of behaviors are seen as a process of forming connections between stimuli and resulting behaviors. However, classical conditioning theory can associate to signal the negative behaviors and environment with negative feelings, whereas operant conditioning theory can utilize negative reinforcement or punishment to decrease these negative behaviors like Betel-Nut chewing and smoking in the schools in Papua New Guinea. Therefore, both operant and classical conditioning theories can be applied to discourage smoking and Betel-Nut chewing in the schools in Papua New Guinea.
Okay, I will be summarizing the points that was already been present. To summarize, smoking and chewing Betel-Nut in PNG schools is a serious issue and bad habit due to its numerous negative impacts it as on students at the different levels of learning in PNG schools. Smoking and chewing Betel-Nut is extremely detrimental in Papua New Guinea schools due to its health risk and impact on the students' learning. Disrespect for school rules, students engaged in smoking and chewing Betel-Nut are often seen as disobedient, undermining school rules and teachers' authority. Rising against health advice, students who took part in this habit of smoking and chewing Betel-Nut often resist public health education, leading ongoing unhealthy choices. Academic decline, students involved in smoking and chewing Betel-Nut often lose focus on their studies, missed classes, and perform poorly in tests and assessments, and score low marks due to addiction behaviors. School environment, Betel-Nut stains and cigarette butts dirty the school grounds, creating an unhealthy and unattractive learning environment. Education department of teachers and staffs in the school can teach and encourage students about the risk and health consequences of smoking and chewing Betel-Nut in the school campus. School must have some policies to reduce smoking and chewing Betel-Nut. The school can establish and enforce policies to minimize smoking and chewing Betel-Nut in the schools of Papua New Guinea. Classical conditioning can associate to signal the negative behaviors and environment with negative feelings, while operant conditioning can utilize negative reinforcement or punishment to decrease these negative behaviors. Therefore, both operant and classical conditioning theories can be applied to discourage smoking and chewing Betel-Nut in the schools in Papua New Guinea. Therefore, we want to recommend that implementation of targeted health education programs, community encouragement initiatives, and support system for students. By addressing this issue holistically, Papua New Guinea can work towards a healthier future for its youth. With that, thank you for watching.